Our story starts with our boy, who became a total goat in knife skills. After deciding to drop out of high school, he dedicated 20 years of his life to becoming the finest swordsman in the country. One day, while working in the kitchen, a staff member points out his alarm. Our boy checks it and realizes he must have accidentally set it to vibrate. Seeing the notification, he briefly wonders if it's from that game he deleted earlier, but assumes his phone is just acting up. At that moment, another staff member interrupts to inform him that a guest has arrived. Not in the mood to deal with anyone, our boy instructs them to say he went to buy milk. But the guest, a dude who looks like a crypto scam salesman, walks straight into the kitchen. Without wasting any time, the guy asks if our boy is willing to work for him and casually offers a 300 million advance payment. Unfazed, our boy slices a fish so cleanly it looks like paper and says, "The kitchen should be clean. I won't tolerate dirt here." Then he tells the guy to get out. The crypto bro, clearly not used to rejection, gets mad and yells, "A sword saint like you shouldn't be wasting your skills cutting fish in a place like this. Come work for me." But our boy, being the absolute Chad he is, grabs a kitchen knife. The sight of it is enough to scare the crypto bro and his guards. As they run for their lives, the crypto bro yells, "I'm not giving up," before bolting out of the kitchen. Later, while taking a break, a staff member jokes, "If that were me, I'd have taken the offer immediately. Why'd you turn it down?" But our boy says, "All I've ever done is slice fish heads with a knife. I don't know the first thing about being a thug." The staff member grins, "But you could use your reputation as a sword master to intimidate people without even lifting a finger. No harm done. You'd make a fortune and buy yourself a house." Our boy shakes his head. "Even if someone offered me billions, I'd still say no." The staff member then nods at the notifications on his phone and teases, "What's this? Got a girlfriend?" Our boy, proudly rocking his V card plus premium, replies, "Nah, it's just a game." As the conversation ends, the boss calls for the cleaning guy, who leaves first. Left alone, our boy reflects on his past. He remembers how his family went bankrupt when he was young, forcing him to grind every single day. He wonders if he's been too focused on earning money, losing sight of everything else. Just then, his phone vibrates again. He looks at it and sees a notification. The Demon King's invasion of the academy isn't over yet. Curious, he taps on the notification and opens the game. As the screen lights up, a prompt to touch the screen appears. Hearing the nostalgic soundtrack and seeing the female characters, he can't help but think, "My waifu is still as beautiful as ever." But before he can process anything else, the phone flickers, and then our boy is blinded by a bright light. Meanwhile, the same staff member from earlier calls out, "Hey, the boss is asking for you," but it's too late. Our boy has been isekai'd. The staff member shakes his head, assuming our boy has just gone to take a shit, but his phone left behind on the rooftop has the message says, "Transfer complete." We get more into the details about the game, which follows a pay-to-win model with a standard auto-hunting system, just like countless mass-produced mobile games. But the reason our boy is playing this game is because he became a weeb after seeing the female characters. Like a true weeb, he spent all his money on it. But despite spending everything, he ended up as a background character. His name is Kang Jiyama. While walking, he accidentally bumps into a blue-haired woman and notices something strange. The setting of Divine Protection resembles Korea. Names, locations, and geography are only slightly altered, with a few minor character variations. Thanks to this, Kang adapts quickly. A whole year passes, and now he's living as a teenager, unsure whether this is real or just part of the game. For him, it's a life he can't fully enjoy, much like his previous one. One day, he comes back from school, and his parents show him the acceptance letter from the academy. They praise him and tell him to pack everything. Meanwhile, our boy feels that his modest dream of living a normal life has been shattered once again. He had tried to avoid the ceremony several times, but couldn't. Looking at the family photo, he wonders how the Kang he possessed managed to get accepted into such a prestigious school. He explains that last year, Kang manifested divine powers, took the entrance exam immediately, and passed. Before he possessed Kang, the boy had already unlocked divine powers and passed the exam. Our boy thinks maybe this guy is a genius. He explains that divine powers are special abilities, similar to skills in a game, but not everyone possesses them. These powers typically manifest through genetics, and based on whether one has divine power, society is divided into 3 classes: the privileged, the commoners, and the poor. The academy where Kang was admitted was originally founded to preserve the power of the elite. Though established under the pretense of hero cultivation, in reality, it's only for upper-class families. However, recently, a system known as special admission was introduced for non-hero families. The character our boy possesses was admitted as one of these special students. He also understands that heroes are essential because of the threat posed by the Demon King. But despite all this, he knows this isn't reality. It's just a training ground preparing students for war. Our boy says divine power, and a status window appears, still unfamiliar to him. He sees the divine power he's unlocked and notices a skill called painlessness, which has a 12-hour cooldown. He sees it as nonsense. His attention shifts to the divine power granted to him upon possessing Kang, the blessing of the sword god, with an activation time of infinity. Our boy never saw this blessing in the game before. The power allows him to slash anything, but the activation condition is that his sword must be exactly 30 centimeters in length and less than 5 centimeters in width, which just so happens to be his trusty Sashimi knife. Back to square one, our boy wonders if he packed everything and realizes he forgot his equipment. He knows even the lowest grade E-rank equipment costs tens of millions, while average C-rank equipment costs hundreds of millions. A and S-rank items must be treasures in themselves. He understands that the tuition alone is exorbitant, and he doesn't want to end up like an average American college student drowning in debt. So, he decides to head to the nearest Walmart to purchase a weapon. He remembers his first master's words, "A true master never blames their equipment." The next day, dressed in his uniform and entering the academy, the instructor says, "Why do you have regular kitchen knives from Walmart?" He thinks our boy is playing a prank on him and decides to lecture him, saying that how can he use a kitchen knife as a weapon in the class placement test? But our boy simply replies that it's his weapon and that he's a special admission student from a modest family. He explains that the tuition alone was already a huge burden on his parents, so he couldn't justify adding the cost of an expensive weapon. The instructor sees the color of his name tag and understands that for a student not from an upper-class background, the academy's fees would indeed be overwhelming. He feels guilty for pushing away such a sincere student. Our boy then says, "Blaming equipment is something only amateurs do." With that line, the instructor sees our boy's unyielding spirit and concludes that he's the real GOAT and approves his weapon. Meanwhile, the students behind him recognize him as a special admission student. They whisper among themselves, wondering how someone like him ended up in such a prestigious academy. The instructor shuts them up, warning that after the evaluation, depending on their actions, he can either be their angel or their devil. Hearing this, our boy gets PTSD from his past and decides to step outside for a break. He finds a bench and feels relieved that he's completed the equipment inspection and survived the entrance ceremony. Now, all that's left is the class placement exam. As he sits there, he realizes that he will be studying for the next 3 years. He thinks about how the academy looks different compared to the graphics in the game, feeling that attending a school meant for the upper class feels unreal, especially since he had to drop out of high school due to family circumstances in his previous life. Then, the class placement test is announced. Students are instructed to gather at the training hall by 1 p.m. He says that while the entrance ceremony is over, the class placement test remains important. He must familiarize himself with his knife. He remembers his master's advice, never put the knife down, even for a single day. Even while you sleep, keep holding it. Kang feels as though he's unconsciously adopted his master's habits. After 20 years of living by the knife, he wonders if a 1-year break has dulled his skills. He removes the cover from the knife and finds it far better than expected. So, he decides to test it by cutting a leaf. But suddenly, the system alerts him that the weapon has met the activation conditions, and the blessing of the sword god activates. However, since both his physical body and the weapon are at too low a level, the system initiates suppression to synchronize with the user. Shocked, our boy can't believe that simply drawing the knife triggered the blessing. As the synchronization completes, the system wishes him, "May the blessing of the gods be with you." Then, an extreme pain strikes his entire body, and he realizes that if this continues, he's going to die. Suddenly, the world shatters like glass. He finds himself in a new space and realizes he's living in the Matrix. He drops the knife, and the world becomes normal again, bringing him back to reality. However, his body still feels the pain. While he understands the activation of divine power, he wonders if the chaos surrounding him is linked to the sword god's blessing. The backlash is unbearable, and although the divine power of painlessness offers some relief from mild soreness, it can't alleviate this kind of agony. Our boy realizes that using his skill in this manner means he can't use it again. Then, an announcement comes for all students to gather at the hall immediately. Our boy sees the sashimi knife and decides to pick it up for safety concerns. He tries to pick it up, hoping it will be okay this time, but the sword god's blessing activates once more, and he feels pain again. Meanwhile, in the training hall, all the students have gathered. Parents chat about how much they spent on admission, but suddenly, they see an old man who is a 7-star hero, King Siegfried, a descendant of Aaron Nibelung and the direct disciple of the founding hero, Valor. Seeing him, the parents quickly return to their seats. Then, we get our first mommy character in this series, the 7-star hero, Media Poison. She says, "It's been half a century since we last met, but the old man says you still haven't begun dressing like an academy director, and turning 70 doesn't seem to have effect on you." Wait, she's 70? Anyway, she says that age is just a number, and every woman wants to remain beautiful until her last day. She offers to use her blessings to make Siegfried look 10 years younger. However, Siegfried dismisses her offer and says that humans should prioritize their inner nature, but she calls him an old fart, irritating the old man. She also says he's changed a lot and brings her to places like this. She assumes his granddaughter must be quite beautiful, and they both realize the test is about to begin inside the training hall. Our boy sees that he's the only one with black hair, and the others think he might be a foreigner. Suddenly, a girl enters the hall, capturing the attention of every student, including our boy. She is none other than Abel von Nibelung, the granddaughter of the Sword Emperor and the main heroine of the game, the sole reason our boy spent a fortune on the game. The Subspace was created by the ancestral hero Balor when he established the academy. It is a separate dimension where pain and damage are real, but the consequences don't carry over to reality. In this space, even taking someone down is overlooked, as there's no interference from the outside world. Siegfried and Media discuss the tradition of subspace battles. This year, they're trying something new, a battle royale format. Participants will be split into groups of 10 for a survival game with no restrictions on equipment. Siegfried notes that removing restrictions will give privileged students an unfair advantage. Media explains that a compromise was necessary since the academy is largely funded by the nobility. She had to work hard to introduce this new system. Inside the training hall, all the students start simping over the granddaughter of the Sword Emperor. Meanwhile, our boy is stunned to see her in 3D, so much more real than her in-game counterpart. While the other students are fools for trying to approach her, he admits he might have been a simp just like them if he hadn't already known better. Having played the game, he knows Abel possesses the Miracle Blessing M, which ties her to the game's protagonist. In this world, beautiful people always seem to have someone by their side. As a special student, he feels out of place and decides to live a peaceful school life. He sets 3 principles for his future: finish his studies without any incident, secure a conventional job, and live safely. While heroes earn big bucks, just drawing his knife earlier left his body trembling. He starts looking for other comfortable jobs. While lost in thought, an announcement declares that the exam for the 783rd year of Hoken Academy has begun. The rules are explained. It's a battle royale among 10 randomly assigned cadets. The top 3 will join the prestigious Star and Dragon classes, while the bottom 3 will be relegated to the ordinary class. Class placement depends entirely on this result, with no time limit. Recognizing the setup from the game, our boy decides to finish quickly and avoid drawing his knife unless absolutely necessary. As the subspace generation device activates, the exam begins. Group after group finishes their evaluations. Media notes to Siegfried that Abel's time of 7 minutes and 14 seconds is impressive. Wanting a fair test, Abel used a C-rank weapon to achieve this result, placing her among the top 10 in Academy history. Though she couldn't break Siegfried's record, he acknowledges it as fitting for his bloodline. Preparing to leave, he dismisses the final group as unimportant, until everyone senses something strange. Then the sky shatters, and some students fall from above, along with our boy's sashimi knife. Media quickly calls for medical staff to assist the fallen students, but our boy lies on the ground, peacefully asleep. Flashback to earlier in the event. The twins of malevolence are bullying weaker students, beating them down for 30 minutes. Our boy remains unnoticed because they see him as too weak to bother with. After finishing with the others, the twins target a lone girl. One twin, licking blood from his gloves, decides to finish her off. Unable to stay silent, our boy screams at them, questioning their cruelty and calling them psychopaths. This draws their attention. Spotting his special student tag, they mock him as a lowlife. One twin approaches, threatening to rip out his tongue. Panicking, our boy scrambles for options. He considers using the blessing of painlessness, but knows 30 seconds of numbness won't save him. Then he notices his bag and draws his knife, despite the agony it causes. Seeing this, the twins laugh. One sneers, asking if he's mocking them, while the terrified girl watches in silence. The twin launches himself into the air, ready to strike. With no other choice, our boy activates the blessing of painlessness, hoping it will numb the pain. The blessing of the sword god activates. The twin mocks the small, pathetic knife, but Kang knows this is a person, not a fish. He recalls asking his master if a sashimi knife could ever cut a person. His master had replied that such things only happen in movies, but then Kang remembers the skill's effect. It will cut if you slash. With a precise swing, Kang slices the twin's arm clean off midair. The system flashes a notification. May the blessing of the gods be with you. In his previous life, Kang recalls asking his boss why gangsters use sashimi knives. His boss, irritated by the question, throws the knife at him and clarifies that he should refer to him as master, not boss. Curious, our boy presses on, explaining his fascination. Kang explained his reasoning. A wide chef's knife causes the skin to contract, making it hard to withdraw, while a sashimi knife, being narrow, allows for multiple stabs and easy retraction. However, sashimi knives are primarily used for slicing fish, and wondered why they couldn't be used the same way on people. Exasperated, his master explained, fish lie flat. If they were standing, you wouldn't even be able to slice bread in one go. Our boy is disappointed because in manga, it always looks like a clean slice every time. He assumes his boss simply lacks the skill, but his master smacks the shit out of him, tells him to call him master, and makes it clear that even if the god of knives appeared, it wouldn't work that way. Back in the subspace, our boy manages to slice the bully's arm clean off in one strike. Everyone, including the bully, is in shock. The bully screams in pain, cries for help, and tries to run, begging his brother to save him. But Kang, showing no mercy, delivers a clean strike that severs his head. The older twin sees this horror and screams, calms himself, because in void space, his brother isn't truly dead. He picks up his brother's weapon, amplifying his defense and jumping power, and prepares to face Kang. Confident in his 3 A-rank blessings, privileges, and he launches himself to strike. For a moment, Kang blinds him with his movements. When the twin regains his sight, he sees multiple knives lodged in his body. He looks at Kang, who still holds the sashimi knife. In a final breath, the twin mutters, "Black Ghost," before collapsing. The blessing of painlessness ends, and Kang feels the full backlash of his actions. Overwhelmed by pain, he loses consciousness. Kang wakes up in a hospital bed. As he rises, a man with a long nose announces the student has regained consciousness. To his surprise, Kang sees the 2 7-star heroes, Siegfried and Media, standing before him. Media asks our boy about his health. Confused, Kang wonders why they're here. Siegfried wastes no time and demands to know what Kang did during the exam and about the strange sensation everyone felt earlier. Kang realizes it wasn't just his imagination, it really was him. Noticing Siegfried ready to draw his sword, Kang explains that while it was a pocket dimension, the actions of the other students went too far. He states he is ready to accept any punishment without complaint. Media intervenes, asking Siegfried why he's treating a student so harshly. She reveals that while Kang was unconscious, it was Siegfried who unblocked his blood vessels, saving him. She pleads, "Give him a break for my sake." Media's words fluster Siegfried, who turns into a Lego man. Kang, now feeling as light as a feather, realizes the treatment has restored his body. Media explains that while he was unconscious, they reviewed the footage of the subspace battle, including the moment when he threw himself to protect a pitiful female student, and she thirsts even more and calls him the prince she's always dreamed of. and starts flirting with him while the old man decides to stop and asks Media to show some dignity. She reassures Kang that no repercussions will arise from his actions and reveals that the twins only got into the academy by licking the boots of the elders. They will be withdrawn from the academy, much to Kang's relief. Finally, Media and Siegfried inform Kang that he is the top scorer in the exam, which shocks our boy. While they congratulate him, Kang realizes he's back to square one. So much for living a peaceful life.